Hey YouTube, we are in the desert outside of Las Vegas with this Polaris Razor 900, and we are going to show you around the Valley of Fire and surrounding areas of Las Vegas while we have it. So enjoy. Hey YouTube, so we are in the northern part of the Logandale Trail System. We are currently probably headed northish, maybe we're about to head east. This is the BLM area. Well, the whole area is BLM, but this is the Bureau of Land Management. But this is the area in which people usually spend the night and they bring their trailers and stuff like that. So we are headed up to the trailhead, and when we go up to the trailhead, you'll get an opportunity to see the area that you come in with if you decide to bring your trailer down here or you decide to bring a Jeep down here. This is the actual like entrance to Logandale. Where we came in at is like a side-by-side only entrance. And we'll jump back and forth a little bit between cameras. I think a lot of this is going to be my Canon in my hand, so you can kind of get the side point of views and stuff, even though it'll be a little bit shaky, like really shaky. But you can see that there are these RVs on the side of the road, and this is a paved road that we're on, even though it is in some pretty kind of poor shape. And like I said, this is the area in which where you come in at if you decide to come down here to spend the night with your trailer, and you'll see trucks make it down here. And yeah, there are these like really big holes in the pavement. So, I probably wouldn't try to bring like an Airstream or anything like really low to the ground out here, just because like the road is so kind of like potholed up. But as long as you have a little bit of clearance, I think you'll be fine. Like those trucks that just went by, they were probably like 1 tons or 3/4 tons. This is the actual top of the trailhead here, and this is where we came in with the Jeeps last time. And that was a picnic area right there where we actually had lunch and everything. And there is a restroom right here. So this is the actual like trailhead or entrance to the Logandale system. I do not know what's required to camp up here. I don't know if you have to do like some kind of reservation or pay some money. Like I don't really know. But I do know that this is all part of the Logandale Trail System. That's Bureau of Land Management, and people come down here, and you can see that most of these are toy haulers because people have like their side by sides, in their toy haulers, and they're down here to have fun down in the Logandale area. So now we are headed south. So if you were to look at a map or whatever, and you saw like a paved road coming into the Logandale Trail System, this would be the paved road that comes into Logandale. And as far as I know, this is the only paved road into Logandale, and you can see like it's pretty rough. And from here, we are going to head to the sand dunes. And so Kimberly is still driving. Yeah, I know, it's incredible. Like we're like on the 4th video out of like 6 videos, and she's been driving the whole time. And so anyway, I'm like actually pretty happy that she's driving, just because normally, I'm the one like pretty much doing all the driving. So at this spot right here, this is where you can either go left or right. And if you go left, you're in the sand dunes, and if you go right, you're more into like the rocky area. And then the area on our right, that's been on our right the whole time, is the Valley of Fire. But I think the Valley of Fire is more like what these rocks are on the right, and then what's beyond it. So what's on our left is more like the Logandale Trail System, and what's on the right would be the Valley of Fire. I don't know if it's like a national park or state park or whatever it is, but that's Valley of Fire there, where you have these like giant red rocks. And the area that we're in is slowly but surely turning more and more into sand. And the little box that you see in front of me every so often in the bottom left part of the frame, that's in the right part of the frame, that little box there is the GPS unit that is sending our coordinates back to the shop so they can keep track of where we're at. So if we get lost or stuck or whatever, we can signal them that we need help. And then every so often you'll see the camera in the frame on the left-hand side. It's like in the center of the side-by-side that's pointing back at us. So they were explaining to us on these sand dunes, because I'm not really a whole like super knowledgeable on sand dunes, that apparently the sand dunes move around when the wind like blows or whatever, and they're not all perfectly rounded. So you have to be very careful when you go over them, because when you go over them in one direction, they might look perfectly rounded, but the back half of them might be like a sheer drop off. So they were saying like before you go over any sand dunes to just like kind of like check them out first and make sure that they're safe. And then once you see that they're safe, it's totally fine to go play on the sand dunes, but don't like just blindly go over sand dunes without having some kind of like knowledge ahead of time of them. So these two peaks that are in front of us, there's this huge picturesque spot like up there, kind of on the on that left side peak that looks down into the sand duning area, and that was the area in which where we did the photo shoot with the Jeeps last time. We went around on these rocks. Excuse me. I'm not really sure which rocks we were on, but they were around here. Maybe they were the ones on the right here. But we went around on these rocks in the Jeeps, and it was like some really killer stuff that we were going over. But I don't want to tell you like the wrong spot to go. But I know it was in Logandale, and I know it was around here. And this was where we kind of like ended up. We ended up in this sand dune area, and we ended up doing the photo shoot up there. And then went up and had lunch when we got done at that trailhead where we were at. And when at the time it was my first time out here, and we had a tour guide with us that was like spotting us through all the very complex rocks and everything, because it was like really like legit rock crawling that we were doing. And so anyway, now we're here in a side by side, but we're alone, so we're being much more cautious. But we do have that little box, a little emergency box. There's a camera right there on the left that's facing us. If occasionally you see some footage, I think you'll see some footage in a few minutes from that camera. And there's two cameras. There's that one there that's facing us, and then there's another camera. I'm not really sure where it's at. It's probably in the grill that's facing in the other direction. So there are other groups out here, and you can see some of them, like that red one. It looks like a Ranger with a full cab over that probably had like air conditioning and everything. And the cab over Rangers, those are like really expensive for side by sides. They're I think in the range of like $20,000-$25,000, which is a pretty high price for a side by side. The side by side that we're in, I think is like more like the $10,000 range for like the price tag. I mean, it's still pretty expensive for a toy, but like in comparison, like to like a Jeep or something like that, it's actually pretty reasonable. And 10,000 would probably be like the top end number if you were to like pay like full price of that and kind of discounts or anything. So here we are. Finally, I explained to her, hey, I think it's a good idea if I drive some, just because I haven't really had an opportunity to drive. So we're switching drivers and everything, and we are out here still in the dune area of the Valley of Fire, so they're hanging around. And that is an area, if you come up here, where you want to take your Jeep to go get some photos taken. The black
I love you too.
on the rocks is kind of like what the petrographs look like. We'll do the petrographs in the next video. So the next video will be more about showing off the artwork and less about like taking it side by side out. And so I'm going to hand the camera off to Mary. You get to see some awesome backseat footage, like maybe a little bit, just because the footage is so like epically awesome. So this is like my first time driving this side by side. So I'm just like at first like I have to kind of get a feel for it before. So I just kind of make a U-turn to head back over the area that we had already gone over, just to kind of get an idea of what it is. And you can see immediately like I already have it up to like 20 miles per hour. I had a tendency of throttling it a little bit more than Kimberly, and I guess everybody kind of drives a little bit differently. I do not know the top speed on this side by side. I'm sure it probably has a limiter on it. And here I am driving finally, and you can see the area that we're in, and then you can see Mary behind us with my camera doing some video footage, or trying to at least. So I'll throw up some backseat footage so you can see what it looks like from the backseat if you were to ever ride in a backseat. And in the center of the frame, you can see the GPS unit. It kind of is in a position where the center mirror would be. So I'm kind of sorry that like this is a repeat of some of the footage, but it is just a little bit of a repeat of some of the footage, like for maybe like 30 seconds or a minute. But this is me driving instead of her driving. And already, you can tell we're almost like I'm trying to see how fast it'll go in the dunes. and like we're peaking at around 29 miles per hour. There's 30. We finally hit the big 3.0, and it still felt pretty stable. I was going straight. I wasn't like making like any kind of sharp turns or anything. Obviously, you would not want to make sharp turns in a four-wheel drive vehicle. That would be asking for like disaster, because you wouldn't have any. You'd have too much traction, so to speak, in a kind of a tall vehicle. And so, for once, I'm having to figure out like, well, where do we need to go? So that's why you saw that like quick turn, because before, when I was in the passenger seat, I wasn't really paying attention to where we were going, because she was like kind of watching the GPS. But now that I'm driving, I'm having to not only like pay attention to where we're going, like visually looking and making sure we don't hit anything, but I also have to look at the GPS unit and try to figure out um, like where the next waypoint is. Because obviously neither one of us are really overly familiar with this area, so it was like really nice that they gave us this GPS, because I can tell you, just like looking at the paper maps, it's really hard to figure out. This is the back seat. If you're wondering, the red helmets were totally 100% in Nevada. They made the recommendation, not for safety purposes, but the recommendation was for warmer. Like, hey, it's going to be a lot warmer if you wear a helmet than if you don't wear a helmet. So that that's a really good point to make. But we had helmets on for safety purposes too. I'm not opposed to like wearing a helmet. Like I don't think I think it's probably like a good idea to wear a helmet, especially if you're out doing something that you're not overly familiar with. And this would be the second time that I've been in a side-by-side. The first time we were at Windrock Park, and I'll see if maybe I can drum up some footage of Windrock Park. But I drove my side-by-side. It was like a Yamaha, I think, brand. I think it was Yamaha. It was like green. Not that really points anything out. At Windrock Park, through the mud and the dirt and everything, and it was raining and it was cold, and it was open air also. But the big difference is, on the Yamaha, it had a front windshield, and I think that like if I had the choice, I think I would probably get a front windshield, because like the wind blowing straight up against you is actually pretty cold, and just having that little wind barrier there, I think makes it like a huge difference. And so obviously, all this like exact path you take is optional. You saw that there was a couple other routes that we could have taken, but you're totally not supposed to like drive over like plants or kind of make a new path. You're just supposed to stay like in the same um, existing trails. And they said that they had rangers out here that kind of like watched all this, but I don't think I saw any rangers, or if we did see rangers, we didn't even know that we saw them. Maybe they were like stealth rangers, or they were hiding or something like that. So we were headed southbound from the trailhead toward the Indian petroglyphs, and when we in the video, we will be like at the Indian petroglyphs, ready to get out and check out the Indian petroglyphs. And so anyway, that's where we are going. If anybody is still watching this, obviously this is a pretty long video. But if you're going to Logandale, and if you're considering renting one of these, it's a considerable amount of money to spend just for like a single day. I don't know, maybe it's like upwards to the price of like Disneyland for a family. Because I mean, if you go to Disneyland, just like eating there alone, you could spend like $100 just like getting lunch. Like Disneyland is like stupid expensive. So I mean, this is probably cheaper than if we went to Disneyland for the day. So it is different than Disneyland, obviously, or Disney World, or any of that kind of stuff. But hey, it's something different to do. So anyway, this area that we're headed down, we are on headed south, and we are still more like on the western side of the Logandale Trail system. But we are on the opposite side of the rocks to the Valley of Fire. So those rocks in front of us would be the rocks for the Valley of Fire. And then the Valley of Fire would be between those rocks and the next set of rocks, which was where we were like in the last video. We were headed, when I said we were headed northern, and now we're headed southern, and we just happened to be on the opposite side of the rocks. And right now I'm trying to figure out like where the Indian petroglyphs are, because we wanted to go out and check them out, and we are just about to pull up to the Indian petroglyphs. They are up here on the right hand side where you can see all the fencing, and those are them there, actually, the black that you can see on those rocks. But we're going to devote a video to going over there and checking them out. So please like and subscribe. This is a side-by-side that we rented.